All right, guys, so in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how much I charge and give you a few pro tips for repairing or replacing exterior door, weather stripping, sweeps, bottom seals, and thresholds. For every video in this How Much to Charge series, I'm going to walk you through my actual handyman business pricing for each task as a one-off job and also as an add-on to an existing job. At the end, I'll also let you know about some free resources that I have for you, including how to download my actual pricing documents. But I need to take 1 minute first to cover a few quick disclaimers. Number one, every state has different laws. Don't do work that you're not legal to do. Number two, my pricing videos are always intended to cover labor only. The materials will cost whatever they cost, and I don't mark up materials by any significant degree. I account for acquiring and handling materials with a labor cost for each job. Number three, my pricing is for my business model, my skill set, my clients, my city, and all of my other unique circumstances. I do not share my pricing with you so that you can copy and paste directly into your business. I share them so that you can have a starting point to jump off from as you learn how to price on your own. Number four, my pricing changes for a multitude of reasons and will continue to do so. That's life. Deal with it. Number five, when in doubt, figure out how much time you'll need and try to charge at least $100 per hour or $2 per minute. Number six, my pricing is based on the most typical solutions to the most typical jobs on typical homes that are in serviceable condition otherwise. There are always dozens of other solutions that I won't be listing, and there are exceptions to every rule, and I can't list them all. Now, let's dive into my pricing and my pro tips for these items. So first, let's talk about weather stripping. With weather stripping, there's going to be one type that's the most common, and that's going to be the type that's called Kerf. It has a kerf edge on it, and that kerf is a straight hard piece that installs into a slot all the way around the door jamb. Since this is the most common style, my standardized pricing is based on this one. If everything is pretty standard with no issues, full replacement for one door takes about 15 minutes max. So at $2 per minute, I'd be more than happy to knock this out for about $30 per door. But I need to set my pricing to accommodate the other styles of weather stripping, repairing the door frame, digging out old rotten weather stripping from the slot, and all the other things that could go wrong. So I've set my pricing for this job at $45 as an add-on to an existing job, or I'll charge $150 for the trip fee if it's a one-off job where I'm driving all the way to that job just for that one task. On average, I'd say this pricing easily comes out to about $135 per hour or more if it's a fast and easy one. And finally, I suggest that you keep enough weather stripping inventory in your handyman van to complete one door minimum so you don't waste an hour driving to the hardware store for something this simple and cheap. And next is sweeps. Sweeps attached to the bottom of the door to bridge the gap between the door and the floor. In most cases, you should be installing a bottom seal here instead of a sweep, but that's not always possible. So if you are installing a sweep, you'll probably need to cut it to length first, and then it's literally just a handful of screws and you're done installing it. So typically, this is about a 5 to 10 minute job if you already have the tools and materials on hand. For installing sweeps, I'll usually charge about $20, which should cover our goal of $2 per minute or $120 per hour. Not much else to say here, pretty simple. And next on the list is bottom seals. These solve a similar problem to the sweeps, but they're a full seal all the way along the bottom of the door, rather than a flimsy little piece of rubber screwed to the outside of the door. Sometimes these are super easy and fast, taking about 10 minutes, and other times these can end up being a real pain in the ass. So I base my pricing on an assumption that they're going to average out at about 20 minutes. A typical install involves cutting it to length and then carefully sliding or tapping it on, and some have screws and some use friction to mount. Do keep in mind that sometimes you'll need to remove the old one, and the old ones are often screwed in from the bottom of the door, so you may need to remove the entire door to remove the old seal. At an average of 20 minutes, charging $2 per minute or $120 per hour, this would put our pricing at about $40 for these, which I'm pretty happy with. And as with so many other common repairs, these sweeps and bottom seals are super cheap to buy and easy to put into inventory, so please keep one on hand and save yourself that hour-long trip to the hardware store for such a basic item. Now, thresholds are a whole other beast, and specifically I'm referring to exterior door thresholds, but I'll touch on the interior ones too. So for exterior, I'll say this. There are many different styles and types and shapes of all different ages, but if you need to replace one, then it's probably not going to be a smooth, simple process because these things are really rugged. So if they need to be replaced, something's gone wrong. If you're lucky, you'll be able to remove the old one and screw down a new one with some Tapcons for cement slabs or screws for wooden foundations. The best case scenario is it'll take you about a half hour, including sealing it to the slab. Worst case scenario is that your foundation isn't in good enough shape to take the hardware for the new one, or the new one needs to be modified to fit around the existing frame and trim, or you have to work carefully around flooring that was installed after that door was installed, or you might even have to cut the existing door to accommodate the new threshold. I can't count how many times I've encountered really weird scenarios while installing these, so just be aware. So to be safe, I estimate these at about $185 as a standalone or a one-off job, or at $135 as an addition to an existing job. And then I just discount that pricing at the very end if everything goes well. And I always make sure to let the client know that my estimate beforehand only applies if I don't run into any additional problems like the ones mentioned above, but most of the time I'm going to end up charging that full price, if not more. I don't have any dollars per hour numbers here since they're all so very different, but I always make sure not to make less than $100 per hour on these when it's all said and done. Now, I said I'd talk about the interior thresholds too, so I'm going to, but I want you to keep in mind, even more so than the exterior thresholds, there are just dozens and dozens of different types of these, of all different shapes and sizes and styles. I'm going to touch on the three main scenarios that I encounter all the time. So scenario number one is when the client wants the cheapest option, which is going to be using some kind of epoxy or adhesive that's designed to bond with both the threshold and the floor beneath it. That's very important. It has to be designed to bond with both of those materials. And we basically just glue them down. And I'll do this for $15 each, but I always put into writing and make sure the client is clear that I do not recommend this method and I do not offer a warranty for this. This is only a cheap temporary solution for a client who's specifically asking for a cheap temporary solution. So I'm going to do these for $15 each as an add-on without a warranty, or I'm going to come to your house for a $150 trip fee and do it. But either way, I'm still charging good money, even if it is just a temporary solution. Now, number two is a very common scenario is that the client needs a new channel mounted threshold installed in a floating floor, in which case I'll make sure to put in writing that the new threshold also will not be a perfect match, but it will be as close as possible because half the time that floating floor is 10 years old or more, and they just don't sell that specific pattern anymore. So I do give them the option of sourcing their materials if they want a perfect match, but they're not going to be okay with me charging $100 an hour to spend hours online trying to find a perfect match to their old floor. So I just don't even offer that as a service. Now, ignoring the sourcing portion of the job, the installation of the most common style of channel-mounted thresholds. And as a reminder, these are the ones that are just a little U-shaped channel that are mounted to the floor, and then your threshold pops into that U-shaped channel. So the installation of the most common style of channel-mounted thresholds on floating floors is pretty simple. Usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes to accommodate the higher end of 30 minutes at $2 per minute. I'm going to charge about $60 for these, but I'm still going to advise against this type, and I'm still not going to offer a warranty because I find the materials themselves are always substandard and prone to coming apart in the near future. All right, and number three, the only option that I'm going to be recommending to my clients, unless we have any number of other situations that are more easily handled, but as far as the common ones, the only one that I'm going to be actually recommending is for me to purchase a solid oak threshold and custom cut it to size and install it with Tapcons or other appropriate hardware if it's not a slab foundation. This is less attractive than a lot of the other options, but it's the only style I'm comfortable having my name attached to in terms of durability. So typically I'll spend roughly 20 to 30 minutes cutting everything to shape so that it's a good fit for the door and the frame and the floor underneath it, including pre-drilling and countersinking. Then if it's a slab foundation, I'll spend a few more minutes with a hammer drill getting the holes ready for the Tapcons. And after that, I just screw the new threshold down, paint over the heads of the screws with something complementary to the oak, and in the long run, thousands of footsteps over the screw heads are going to be obvious either way, and that's just the way it is. So all in all, this job takes anywhere from about 30 minutes to 1 full hour if it's intricate with flooring at different levels on each side of the threshold. So in other words, it can take up to a full hour if the actual levels of the flooring on either side of that threshold are different. But what I like to do here is charge the same $60 that I charge for the channel mounted option, even though it takes more time and effort, so that my clients feel like they still have an affordable solution that also comes with a warranty. I make less money on these, but I'm willing to sacrifice a few dollars for the sake of knowing that I've given them a durable threshold that will never come off with my name on it. Now for a couple quick disclaimers that you need to be aware of for sure is number one, never, ever, ever drill into post-tension slabs. You can usually find a stamp in the garage or driveway in the cement that lets you know it's a post-tension slab, but you need to figure out if it's a post-tension slab one way or the other, and do not drill into post-tension slabs. You can destroy the entire foundation of that house and or injure or kill somebody if that goes wrong. So just don't drill into post-tension slabs ever, ever, ever. And then the other disclaimer is, yes, if you've been listening to me, you can think of all kinds of other ways to solve these problems, both better ways and worse ways, more expensive ways and cheaper ways. I agree there's 1,000 other options. I'm just trying to give you the most common ones. Now for the additional resources I told you all about at the beginning. So first of all, I have no paywalls on this channel, which means I'm never going to ask you for a single penny. So all of the following resources are free all the time. Resource number one is a basic jobs list with some pricing available for you to download that details pretty much every job you're likely to ever be asked to do as a professional home maintenance technician, especially for a property manager. This video, along with my other pricing videos, are all part of that larger list and intended to give you insight into my pricing methods so that you can use it as a starting point to customize your own pricing. That list with pricing is going to grow and get updated over time as I continue to make more of these videos. You can find that list by clicking on the link for my free documents at the bottom of the description of this video and all of my other videos. On that same documents page, you'll also find other great resources like a list of all the tools you need, how to land work with property managers, scheduling templates, jobs frequency lists, inspection checklists, and kit inventories. You'll also find a downloadable CSV file containing a download from my Jobber account of all of my custom line items that I use in my actual handyman business to write estimates and invoices. This CSV file can be uploaded directly into your Jobber account, and you'll have all of my line items. If you don't have Jobber, I highly recommend using my link in the description of this video to get a free 14-day trial with my exclusive discount to see if it's the right CRM for your business. And by the way, if it's not the right CRM for your business, please don't buy it. But I can almost guarantee that once you try it, you'll wonder how you ever got along without it. And speaking of CRMs, I also have a free weekly webinar where I take you into my Jobber account and show you how I create jobs, write quotes, invoice, and just generally how I manage my workflow from the moment I receive a request up to the moment that I send that final invoice and get paid. You can sign up for these webinars with a link in the description of this video, or you can go directly to bulletproofhandyman.com to sign up for webinars. And finally, I host free all-inclusive weekend cabin stay events around the country and also here in Arizona for networking and community building. These events are always magical, and everyone always goes back home with a renewed vigor and a fresh game plan to boost their business to that next level. To see when the next one is or when I'll be bringing one to a cabin near you, you can check the description of this video or go directly to bulletproofhandyman.com. And probably my number one resource I have available to you is all of you can email me anytime you want, and I promise to respond to every single email. I am not too big to do that yet. So email me at bulletproofhandymanbusiness@gmail.com, and I absolutely will reply to your email as long as it's not a very generic question like, hey, just starting out, got any advice? Again, that's bulletproofhandymanbusiness@gmail.com, and I will reply to you. And with all that being said, I love you guys. I hope you're out there killing it, and I'll see y'all on the next one.